Hi, I'm Josh, and this is my first attempt at an IB film documentary. I chose autism through both Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown. Both films, I've noticed, have use of dark humor, a non-linear narrative, use of strong language and violence, side stories, bad guys always winning in the end, and Samuel L. Jackson's character giving a sign before he kills someone. In the scene of the apartment of Mr. Brett, he is a business associate of Mr. Wallace. We can clearly assume that these two individuals, Jules and Vincent, are gangsters because of their matching suits, matching ties, close conversations about foot massages, and also loaded handguns in the pocket of their pants before they got even into the building. As Jules enters, and with a friendly tone, it sort of throws you off guard because you're expecting this intimidating kind of voice, but instead it's this kind, friendly person, like it's your friend or something. Then he enters, but Jules knows right away that he has the upper hand, he has the power, he can manipulate these guys because he caught them off guard eating. And then Jules starts getting into conversation about what they're eating, such as their hamburgers, and then he continues on with small talk, on pointless topics, and sarcastic tones. Jules is in a way teasing their fate instead of killing them right away. It's sort of like it's genius in a way. Then they think of nothing, and Brett actually starts talking to them in a normal voice, trying to convince them that how sorry he was. Jules decides to shoot his friend on the couch, putting Brett in complete shock and just scared to death practically. And then he starts freaking out, he starts saying what, and then all of a sudden the table flips, and then begins the famous line of the Bible verse that he memorizes every time he kills someone. This is also an indicator of Samuel L. Jackson's character, giving indicator about he's about to kill someone, such as the Bible verse saying that, and I will strike thee upon with great vengeance, blah blah blah. And Jackie Brown, Ordell just bailed out Beaumont for $10,000 because Ordell does not want Beaumont to talk about his secret business as a black market gun dealer. But really Ordell is irritated with Beaumont because he knows that Beaumont will talk his way out of less years in jail because he has to go back on a machine gun charge that he was charged with a couple years ago. Constant use of F-bombs being thrown and N-words. We can tell that Beaumont is kind of a moron, idiotic character, just because the fact that he just got out of jail and he's already smoking pot. So that really tells you a lot about who he is as a person. But then Ordell convinces Beaumont that he needs to return a favor to him for bailing him out for $10,000. So he tries to convince him to get in the trunk of his car, but really he's going to do a lot more than just have Beaumont return the favor to him. With Ordell, you don't know exactly what he's planning. He's a quiet and he's a dark character, which makes him very mischievous, and it just keeps you wondering what will happen in the next scene. Unlike Jules in Pulp Fiction, where he was this bold character who made his famous speeches, and he was the dominant hand, where Ordell, on the other hand, is the quiet person that gets results in a way. So after he puts Beaumont in the trunk, Beaumont starts freaking out, and then Ordell puts on his gloves. And I've also noticed throughout the whole film that when Ordell puts on the gloves, he is usually about to kill someone. Shown in here, and also a really good indicator of him about to killing someone is when he pulls out his gun from the glove compartment and checking if there's bullets in it. So yeah. Both films, I've also noticed, have used a non-linear plot line. This is very typical of notice in Tarantino films such as Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, of course, Reservoir Dogs, and Kill Bill. At first watching it, you are kind of confused and you don't really fully understand what's happening, but as things start moving, it drops on you and you get everything right at once. You might not get everything, but you get why this person did that, for example. And the story, and it's also not shown just once, it's shown 3 or 4 times through each character's point of view that was at the scene at the time. But within each main plot line, there's also these side stories that help explain the plot even more, that give it support. Even though it might seem pointless in the beginning, it actually adds up and makes sense. For example, in Pulp Fiction, Butch's story, uh, you you wonder why they have beef with each other is because of Butch trying to rob Mr. Wallace from a boxing match. He told him to lose, but his pride got in the way of it, and then before this whole boxing match, Mr. Wallace had this big speech about forget about pride, just take the money kind of thing. These unconventional storylines are very unique to Tarantino, and it seems to be kind of his thing, I've noticed. I don't know any other director that has. That's not that doesn't mean that there isn't. I just haven't noticed it. But these non-linear stories are just make the film interesting. It kind of draws you as a viewer. Uh, During both of the movies itself, they seem predictable at the time, using just basic backgrounds and scenes of average people. You really wouldn't expect much, but really there's a lot more happening than what you might see. But I've noticed both movies is based on a lot of assumptions. They're not very direct movies where it's like, this is the bad guy and they did this and this did that, blah blah blah. Both both movies do use violence. Jackie Brown is not as violent, I think, as Pulp Fiction, but that doesn't mean there isn't violence. Because what's a Tarantino movie without violence? Jackie Brown is more of the serious mental side of crime itself. So it's less of the gore and blood that you would normally typically see. But though there is a lot of blood in the end when Ordell gets killed by Michael Keaton's character, I believe. But in Pulp Fiction, it is pretty clear how violent it is, such as when Vincent accidentally blew off Marvin's head, and his head literally just exploded, and it was a bloody mess. But at the same time of it being a serious normal thing, it was hilarious, I thought. this, to me, was Tarantino's dark humor being implemented here. It's pretty serious because the fact that someone's head got shot off and his brain is all over the car, it was just the timing was just so funny, and of course, everything's funny when you throw in the F word, and it's just great. Some critics, though, did not enjoy the extensive violence and cussing because they felt that it took away from the film itself. I really think it just added on, but I'm not necessarily a critic. Um, each movie does give these little details and little events to these characters that make them so unique as individuals, and it makes us as viewers wanting to, watch them carefully and feel the way that they do through their struggles of bad times or just happiness in general. In the end, uh, both movies, the bad guys do win, unfortunately. In a way, Jackie is kind of represented as a fugitive because she is smuggling money in and out of Mexico, and she is working as an airline hostess for Ordell, and she mainly smuggles cash. But even though that she was caught by the authorities, Jackie still wants to rob from Ordell and the police as well. She wants a big cut of that $500,000, I believe. In Pulp Fiction, they're just straight up gangsters. They get whatever they want as long as they shoot their way out through their problem, really. Vincent and Jules do their business out of intimidation and fear, with guns, and with a big presence against a weaker person. In my book, that is a definition of a bad guy to me. Well, this has been my first attempt at a documentary.